Hello, all participants of the International Conference on Social Science and Humanities organized by Eurasia Research. My name is Marek Matejun, and I am very happy and proud to serve as a keynote speaker at this great scientific event. Just before my main presentation, I will shortly present my country, my university, and my own research interests. I am from Poland, which is a middle-sized country located in the Central Europe, eastern part of the European Union. Our neighbor countries are Germany, Russia, Lithuania, Belarus, Ukraine, Czech Republic and Slovakia. Capital of Poland is Warsaw, but I live in Łódź, which is located in the center of Poland, about 150 kilometers from the capital city. The name of my city, Łódź, is very difficult to pronounce, but its meaning in English is very simple and means a boat. And it is quite interesting and a little bit funny because, as you can see on the map, we do not have access to any bigger river. I represent University of Łódź, which was established in 1945 and is one of the biggest universities in Poland with about 4,000 staff members and about 40,000 students. My university is one of the top public universities in Poland, and it is ranked from 101 to 1000 in the QS World University Rankings 2023. It consists of 20 faculties, and I represent the Faculty of Management, which was founded in 1994. According to my academic work, I am associate professor at the Department of Entrepreneurship and Industrial Policy. In 2016, I obtained habilitation degree, which is the second-level scientific degree in Poland. My research interests are mainly related to entrepreneurship and small business management, innovation management, strategic management, and research methodology in management sciences. I am also strongly engaged in cooperation with Social Science and Humanities Research Association and Eurasia Research. This cooperation started in 2017 from Bali conference. Since then, I have already attended 14 conferences organized by Eurasia Research and have presented 10 keynote plenary speeches. I am also president of SSHRA and a member of International Scientific Board for conferences organized by our association. I also invite you to cooperate with us. Visit our website for further information and become a lifetime member of our affiliated associations. I hope you will also be interested in attending our other scientific conferences around the world. Now we can move to the main topic of my speech: exploitation of support in small business, mediating effect of interorganizational trust. Its aim is to identify and assess the role of trust in managing relationships with stakeholders on the sample of support exploitation for small businesses. I will start with literature review. On this basis, I will develop research model and formulate two research hypotheses. Then, I will present methodological foundations for this study and research results. In the final part, I will formulate concluding. My speech should take about 20 minutes. Small business, I mean micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, are considered as the backbone of the world and European economy due to their innovativeness, capacity to stimulate productivity, provide employment opportunities, and improve welfare of the people. These enterprises operate in dynamic and complex environment with many support initiatives and assistance programs dedicated for small business. In their environment, we can find many different support institutions, usually public ones, which offer specific support instruments for SMEs, such as financial grants and loans, organizational and legal instruments, consulting, training and information services, as well as technological and pro-innovation services. Exploitation of these instruments may be the source of many advantages for small business, including resource benefits, for example, access to new resources, development of unique resources, improvement of human capital equality, and market benefits. For example, extension of the company's offer, increase in innovation and flexibility. On the other hand, however, SMEs face many barriers in exploitation of public support. Therefore, systematic and persistent exploitation of this support, often expressed by many attempts to obtain specific support instruments, becomes very important. These assumptions lead to the formulation of the first hypothesis: exploitation of support directly, significantly, and positively determine the extent of support advantages achieved by SMEs. When looking more deeply into relationships between SMEs and support institutions, we can find that the scope of support advantages is determined by the trust in relations between these parties. It is possible to indicate many different problems in this area. For example, lack of trust that there is an appropriate type of support for a specific company, lack of certainty as the potential value of the support, concerns about the advisor's understanding to the specificity of a business, and moreover, small entrepreneurs are usually discouraged by their own previous negative experience of support exploitation or those of others. The trust between SMEs and support institutions is therefore of an interorganizational nature, including a belief in the beneficial, reliable, predictable, and mutually acceptable action of the other party, as well as of an interactional nature based on dialogue and joint involvement in decision making. Due to the specificity and scope of these relationships, it is possible to distinguish two dimensions of this trust relevant for SMEs. First, the ability to access support institutions' reliability, and second, a trustworthy image brand of the company for support institutions. In the first case, it is primarily important to identify positive examples of the use of support in companies' environment and the ability to objectively assess the support institutions and the support instruments. The second dimension consists of an openness to the environment, an ethical approach to the exploitation of support, and orientation to long-term partnership relations with support institutions. Changes in this trust results, among other things, from interpretations of partner behaviors that depend on the performance that has been achieved during earlier stages of cooperation, and as well as on relationship frequencies between SMEs and support institutions. This, therefore, leads to the formulation of the second hypothesis. Trust in relationships with support institutions mediates the impact of support exploitation on the support advantages achieved by SME sector companies. Taking all into account, the general assumptions are presented as a research model. In this model, there is a direct, positive impact of exploitation of support on support benefits for small business. However, this impact is mediated by development of trust in relationships between SMEs and support institutions. To verify research model and test research hypothesis, I conducted survey research on a sample of 1,741 SMEs from 22 European countries. It was electronic survey research, and research tool was an original questionnaire which was available to respondents at questionpro.com. The size of the surveyed companies was determined on the basis of SME's definition by the European Commission. In total, 1,183 micro companies, 399 small companies, and 159 medium-sized companies took part in the survey. These enterprises were mostly sole proprietorships or limited liability companies operating primarily in the service sector. The respondents were mostly owners or managers of surveyed companies. The variables used in the research model are complex and latent. For this reason, an approach based on synthetic variables was used to analyze the relationships between them. They have been operationalized using sets of specific items, indicators, that can be directly identified and assessed in the economic practice of small business. The content of individual items resulted directly from the theoretical characteristics of the variables. They were all evaluated by respondents on a visual analog scale from 1 to 100. To measure internal consistency reliability of variables, Cronbach's alpha coefficient was used, taking a minimum acceptable value of 0.7, and to test reliability and validity of variables, confirmatory factor analysis was used. All factors, as you can see in this table, all factors loadings were found to be above 0.5, and most of them were above 0.7. On this basis, the values of composite reliability and average variance extracted were found to be acceptable. Additionally, 4 control variables were used in the analysis, which were measured on ordinal scales based on respondents' answer. The first was the size of the company, the second, the age of the company, the third, the market coverage, and the last, the technological level of the company. The results indicate that the survey enterprises undertake activities for exploitation of support to a moderate extent, with the main stimulant being the entrepreneurship of owners managers and their focus on taking advantage of market opportunities. What is important, involvement in support exploitation translates strongly into support advantages. Among the detailed benefits, the respondents mentioned most the extension of the scale of operation and market offer of the company, increase in innovativeness, and intensification of development in a scheduled direction. At the same time, exploitation of support is strongly connected with the increase of trust in relations with institutions supporting SMEs. This trust is developed in the surveyed sample to a moderate extent, with slightly more respondents assessing their trustworthy image brand than the reliability of business support institutions. Trust in relationships with support institutions is also strongly linked to the extent of the benefits of using support, which initially confirms the assumptions made in the research model. To obtain more detailed test of the research model, mediation analysis was carried out involving 3 steps. Step number 1, demonstrating that the predictor significantly determines the level of the dependent variable. Step number 2, demonstrating that the predictor significantly determines the variability of the mediator. And step number 3, demonstrating that the mediator is an important predictor of the dependent variable with additional consideration of the impact of the independent model variable. At the same time, the previously significant impact of the independent model variable on the dependent one should become insignificant, or its significance should be clearly reduced. This analysis is presented in this table. Model 1 analyzed the impact of the predictor exploitation of support on the dependent variable, the support advantages. This impact proved to be statistically significant with no impact of control variables. At the same time, it explains 28% of the variability of benefits from the use of support in SMEs under analysis. Also, in model number 2, exploitation of support determines significantly the level of trust in relations between SMEs, companies, and support institutions. This interaction is characterized by a very high degree of matching, amounting to 64%. The key to explaining the mediation effect is model number 3, which results in statistically significant impact of trust in relations with institutions supporting small businesses on the level of benefits resulting from the use of support by SMEs with simultaneous controlling assessment of the impact of actions in the scope of support use on the dependent variable. We can see that the previously significant impact of the independent variable on the level of benefits from the use of support is reduced both from the point of view of impact strength, about 5 times less impact than that of the mediator, and from the point of view of the level of significance. This indicates, therefore, the occurrence of trust as an intermediary factor between the exploitations of support and the benefits resulting from the use of support by SME companies. The further specification of this analysis is model number 4, in which the effect is visible in relation to both trust dimensions under considerations. First, assessment of support institutions, reliability, and the second, trustworthy image brand of the company for support institutions. Therefore, the results confirm the direct, significant, and beneficial impact of exploitation of support on the support advantages achieved by small business, which positively verifies the first hypothesis. But the results also show that the trust between SMEs and support institutions acts as a mediator of the impact of exploitation of support on the level of benefits resulting from the use of support, which positively verifies the second hypothesis. Concluding my presentation, I would like to emphasize that support exploitation contributes significantly to a number of benefits for small business. Therefore, it is worth encouraging small business entrepreneurs and managers to engage in relations with support institutions. These relationships further strengthen trust in support institutions and instruments, which then translates into above average resources and market benefits from the use of support. We can also say that results strengthen the relationships between trust management, stakeholders theory, and resource-based view by treating the individual dimensions of trust, in our case, the first, assessment of support institutions' reliability, and the second, trustworthy image brand of the company, as specific dynamic resources, capabilities to build a sustainable competitive advantage for small business based on exploitation of support. What is also important, social exchange theory explains the increase in trust in support institutions resulting from the involvement of SMEs in exploitation of support. This involvement is the result of entrepreneurs' rational calculation of the expected support advantages. The positive impact of trust on the growth of these advantages is at the same time related to the reduction of transaction costs of cooperation between SMEs and support institutions. As a result, trust becomes a key factor, including stability and predictability, as well as facilitating coordination in relationships between small businesses and support institutions. And that concludes my speech. Here you can see all references from the presentation. And that brings us to the end. Thank you very much for your attention. I kindly invite you to cooperation in entrepreneurship and management. I also invite you to visit my website and my YouTube channel to find out more about my scientific activity and get contact details. If you have any comments or questions, it is a time for the discussion now. Thank you.